And I said, Mr. President, Buffalo's a little bit like Scranton, a little bigger version of Scranton. You know Scranton. And you live a long time and you love your community, but you get knocked down a little bit and you don't quite get the respect sometimes that other parts of your state do. And you just kind of feel like, you need a little attention. And I said, you know what, Mr. President, he said, what can I do for you? I said, if you came to Buffalo, if you came and showed up and just gave a collective hug to this community, there's something called Buffalove. It's a combination of the word buffalo and love. We call it Buffalove. Give us a big embrace, Mr. President. That's all we need you to do. And he said, I'll be there. I'll be there. So I want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for helping my beloved community and the people of my state heal with his presence today. You're going to be hearing from him momentarily. He is the most empathetic person who's ever occupied a seat in that position, and I want to thank him. I will be brief because you're going to hear from a lot of people, but this is raw still. This is a lot of emotion. Our hearts are literally broken in two. One half grieves so deeply for the families, and some of them are with us today, and I cannot imagine what it's the searing pain that just must be going through your bodies to think that your loved one is no longer with us. We're still trying to comprehend this pain. But there's also this other side of our broken heart that is filled with some anger, and it's because we're human beings. You can't witness what happened to this community, where an individual who is radicalized in the beliefs of white supremacy and nationalism, who was so taken with these philosophies that are now becoming way too mainstream. They're not just in the dark web anymore. They're starting to percolate up. Where actually elected officials are starting to embrace them and talk about them. And you hear about them in Congress by certain people, and you hear about them on cable shows. It's not just buried in the web anywhere. So these hateful philosophies are starting to become mainstream, and they took hold in the mind of an 18-year-old who lives 3 hours from here. And he targeted this community, intentionally coming to this zip code because he could do maximum damage and death to people, not just any New Yorker, but he was targeting and wanted to execute Black New Yorkers. That's hard to comprehend, the depth of that hate. And it wasn't that alone, though. You could have that hate in your heart, and you could sit in your house and ferment these evil thoughts, but you can't act on it unless you have a weapon. And that's the intersection of these two crises in our nation right now. The mainstreaming of the hate speech and the racism and everything else that brought that person to this point, but also the access to military-style weapons and magazines, and it is that lethal combination that resulted in the loss of 10 decent, good people. We pray for them, but they're not with us because of that combination. So this is not just a call to action for the people of Buffalo, and they are rising up. You cannot believe the depth of their spirit and their resiliency. I've embraced them, I've hugged them, I've cried with them. We will get through this because this is Buffalo. We're tough. But this should not just provoke a conversation in this community. This needs to stimulate a national conversation about how we make sure that we're doing everything we humanly can to eradicate this evil and send it back under the rock from which it came. That is what we must do in our nation. And
this lady is exaggerating a bit.
Yes, the gun he acquired was illegal in the state of New York.
What is up, hooligans? Please take a second to share this out. Let's get this chat filled up. Old man Walter wasn't supposed to be speaking until 1. I jumped the gun an hour.
You know how easy that is? That's why we need a national gun policy that's common sense like we have here in New York. We need this everywhere. But my friends, we are here to say, yes, we'll have those conversations, but there'll be more than conversation. We're not just going to talk about it until the next crisis and the eyes of the world turn away from Buffalo. We're going to keep them focused on what happened here to 10 human beings, our neighbors. And we'll never lose sight of that. That's who we're fighting for. That's who we're heading into this fight with. Those people in our hearts and our minds. So, as we've prayed since Saturday, a lot of us have been in a lot of churches and services. We pray that God will give Saturday healing to these families and this community. But God, give us the strength to forge ahead with the strength and conviction that justice must be done, but also changes must be made. And we'll all remember that it started here in Buffalo, New York. And with that, I'm going to bring up another son of Buffalo, someone who loves this community so deeply, and that is our local Congressman, Brian Higgins.
Thank you so much, Mark Hill, for the $2 donation. I appreciate you. Thank you for the support.
Thank you, Governor Kathy Hochul. I know that many people have been recognized, but I too want to recognize the mayor of Buffalo, Byron Brown. He does his...
What is going on with this guy's hair?
Under the most difficult of circumstances.
He went for that Pepe Le Pew.
A lot of things have to occur over the next several weeks, but I don't want to get in front of it because we want to remember the victims. They were mothers and grandmothers. They were fathers and grandfathers. They were young adults. They were people of faith, a retired teacher, and a retired police officer. 10 individuals who woke up on Saturday morning, left their homes, saying goodbye to their loved ones, having every expectation that they would return safely. And their lives were taken from them because of a blatant, vile, racist act of domestic terrorism. We need laws. We need a federal statute that criminalizes domestic terror of this nature. We need to get assault weapons off the street so our police officers can be safe and continue to keep us safe on our streets and in every situation that we find ourselves in. And finally, I just want to say about the community of Buffalo. Buffalo is a tough place. It's resilient. It has overcome adversity in many circumstances. We have never had such terror exacted on this community in the entire history of this community. But what we can do from all of this is learn. They say that to live is to suffer. To overcome the suffering is to give meaning to the suffering. The Greeks say that we suffer our way to wisdom. It is a hard fought for wisdom, but the hope is, in the days immediately in front of us, working at the state, federal, and local level, we will find a way to stop the violence and the hate in this community and in this country and throughout the world. With that, it gives me great pleasure to welcome the junior senator from New York State, a great friend and former colleague in the House, Kirsten Gillibrand.
Today is a day of deep mourning. It's a day of deep sadness. It's a day of reflection. There's a great deal of anger. There's a need for justice. There's a need to right wrongs. And all of us are here today because we want to support this community in Buffalo that is resilient, that is tough, that knows hard times but knows how to build back and knows how to overcome. The people who were slaughtered by this evil were very good people, among the best. Aaron Salter was a father and a retired police officer who gave his life to save others. Celestine Cheney was a single mom, a grandmom, breast cancer survivor, Hayward Patterson was a deacon in the local church. Ruth Whitfield was a mother and grandmother who sang in the choir and had just visited her husband. Roberta Drury was a young woman who was visiting her brother who was recovering from leukemia. Catherine Massey, she was a civil rights activist, and Pearl Young was a missionary and a teacher. She touched the apple of God's eye, according to her niece. So these people, these and 3 others and others who were injured, they're the best of our community. And when bad things happen to good people, we all begin to say, this doesn't make sense. We as legislators, we will gather and say we are going to end gun violence, we are going to ban assault rifles and large magazines, we are going to fix our criminal justice system so that there's justice, we are going to make our community safer. But those are just promises and hopes and goals and things we strive for. But for a community of faith, and many of the people who lost their lives and their families come from that community, we were never promised that life would be easy. In fact, we were always promised that there will be troubles. And we are promised that all tears will be wiped away, that at the end, death will be destroyed, and every tear will be wiped away. We have so much work to be done as a community to heal, as elected leaders to get justice for these families, and to make this a stronger, better community. But I can promise you every single one of us are dedicated to doing that until it's done. God bless you all.
These people are crazy.
I now would like to introduce Senator Schumer, who is not only our great senator in this state, but is the majority leader of the United States. And as a result, he has had an extraordinary voice for New York, an outsized voice that gets everything done. Senator Schumer.
Gets everything done. They just get everything done. Fixes everyone's problems. I bet his lips are chapped.
Good afternoon. And first, I want to thank all of you for being here. And I want to thank you, President Biden and Dr. Biden, for coming to Buffalo. Amidst all the hurt and pain, Mr. President, when you said you would come, your announcement was a strong ray of hope to this community. Now, like all of you, today what I feel above all is just immense anguish. Nothing I can say will undo the terrible suffering you are enduring, nor bring back those, beautiful young lady there, those who were senselessly and unjustly taken from us. But I can say this: Buffalonians are brave, compassionate, resolute, and this community will emerge from this tragedy stronger and more determined than before. I know that because I know this community. I remember like it was yesterday when I stood outside the new Tops supermarket on Jefferson Avenue. I was proud to have advocated for its construction, bringing affordable and healthy food to this food desert. What we didn't know then was just how much the Tops would become a neighborhood gathering place, which is why this vicious killer chose this supermarket for his evil deed. He wanted to put a dagger in the heart of the community, how vicious and mean and cruel and deranged he was. I'm sure many of you shop there. It's where you buy your groceries on your way home from church before the Bills game. It's where you see your friends and relatives and catch up between errands. Buffalo is the city of good neighbors, and nowhere is this more true than on the East Side. And to the city of good neighbors, I pledge to stand with you through this awful, awful tragedy, to work in the Senate to oppose the poison of white supremacy that inspired this attack, to work towards finally ridding our streets of weapons of war, and to make sure that this community has all the resources necessary to heal, to endure, to stand tall once again. May God bless those who lost their lives, the loved ones they leave behind, and may He protect the injured and keep them safe from harm. As the scripture in Isaiah says, "Blessed are they who mourn, for they shall be comforted."
They're just using this as a reason to talk about white supremacy and gun control. Oh, they got scared people in the house. What the hell? They had to go look for old man Walter. They couldn't find him. He ran off somewhere. Jill wasn't doing her job. I don't know if they're going to actually come back or not. The way they run these White House briefings is terrible. Well, I'm going to find this article. There's been some stuff going on in Grand Rapids, but it hasn't been live, which is why we haven't covered it. But I want to say there was protesters throwing bricks through like city council members' windows or something, with news articles of like Patrick Leoya saying the blood's on their hands. They're also spray painting "defund the GRPD" in multiple locations. Let me see if I can find this article real quick. There's been multiple shootings across Michigan over the last week. I mean, I don't think Schumer's going to come to town and talk about that, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I don't know if it was an act of white supremacy. I don't know if they can spin it into an act of white supremacy. All right, here we are. GRPD investigating multiple instances of vandalism targeting homes of city commissioners. So here's the brick I was talking about. This image is everywhere right now for people that live in Michigan. I don't know if the algorithm's bringing it to anyone outside of Michigan. I believe that's a news article that has to do with Patrick Leoya. Blood is on your hands. Some taggings: defund GRPD, abolish police. You know, I'm wondering, how far will the investigation go? Who could have done this? Who could have done these taggings? Who would write something like that? Here's a little bit more. See, they even used a stencil. They want to make it fancy. It's probably because this one turned out like crap. They were like, we gotta grab the stencil. So we got stuff like this going on. They're not gonna talk about that. They don't want to talk about that kind of stuff. No, let's use this mass shooter as a way to use gun control and all this other stuff. Yeah, Shelly Babes. Nobody's talking about this kind of stuff right here. They don't want to talk about that. And they haven't been live streaming it, so I think the Minnesota protesters that came here and trained all the people in Grand Rapids, I think they did their job, because there hasn't been any live streaming going on protests and stuff, but they're throwing bricks and writing tags But remember, Congress and all them have been saying that it's the Republicans that want to defund the police. It's not the Democrats. It's not them. These people are severely crazy. So I don't know if they're going to actually come back or not. I think they lost old man Walter. Like I said at the beginning, he wasn't supposed to actually be on stage until 1 o'clock. It's now 12:09 here Eastern time. He's probably taking a nap. I got to figure out where he's sleeping. Oh yeah, I had a interesting email this morning. So some of you know I have a Locals account. If you don't know what Locals is kind of like Getter. Sort of. It's kind of like Getter, but you can subscribe, kind of like the membership program. It's a way to donate and support the live stream and stuff. So someone disputed a $5 donation that they made to me on Locals, and it basically suspended my Stripe account for a bit. And then there was so much transaction fees that I had to pay Stripe $20 because somebody disputed a $5 donation that they made. If you guys aren't completely sure that you want to donate to the live, please don't. As much as I really appreciate all the support, receiving $5 to give $20 back is kind of ridiculous. So, if there's any kind of concerns about that, please just support in different ways, because this is not the first time this has happened, and I may shut down my Locals if this continues to happen, because that's not really support. That's a pain in my ass to have to wake up and deal with it. It really sets the tone for the day to see stuff like that, and that sucks. That really sucks. Nonsense. Yeah, Finn, I seen that the who was it, Congress, I think, was talking about UFO disclosures this morning. I missed it, didn't get the notifications until it was like 10 o'clock, and it was well over. I seen it was about an hour and a half long. I haven't watched it yet. I'm working on it. Did any of you guys watch the UFO disclosure or whatever? I don't know what they call it. Maybe it wasn't a disclosure. Last year it was a disclosure. I don't know if you guys watched it last year. They said, yeah, there is UFOs, and they played some footage, and they said, yep, we think the Chinese are driving them. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Wicked Patriot. No, I don't want to call them out. They know who it is, and it could have been an honest mistake about the whole disputing the Stripe thing, but I don't know. The claim was that Locals, that they canceled their subscription to Locals, and Locals charged them anyways, and then that made me have to pay $15 in transaction fees. I don't know. It could have been genuine, but this has happened before. This happened through PayPal before. Somebody donated $7 or something like that, and then turned around and said that I charged them without them knowing or something. Like I pulled $7 out of their account somehow. I just magically did it, and it ended up suspending my PayPal account, and then that cost me like $10 in transaction fees or something. So it could have been a genuine mistake, but I don't know. It's really a pain in my ass. It really is. Crack Shot starts in 30 minutes. There's a live feed scheduled for that time. Not sure what you're referencing. Maybe you're talking about the White House feed. Hold on a second. Nope, Crack Shot. Have no idea what you're referencing. Yeah, Finn, it's all that commie sauce. You know what happens. IB4 can't dispute Zelle. Yeah, I have Zelle. We have, let me scroll down the list here. PayPal, Cash App, Zelle, Venmo, Buy Me a Coffee. I don't even have Stripe listed as a way of donation. That's what Locals uses. I wasn't using Stripe for the longest time because of the scam emails. Now, I don't know if this is because I've been running like online business for, I don't know, since 2016, but there's scam emails where it'll look like PayPal writes you, or Cash App writes you, or Stripe writes you, or whatever. So like it looks like an official email, and it'll say something like, "Oh, there's been a dispute, or your account has been suspended. Please log in to see why." And if you log in, of course, it'll say, "Oh, your password and stuff's wrong." And that's because it's not really from that company, and that page you landed on when you tried to log in is not really their home page. When you are logging in, you are providing a scammer with your sign-in credentials. And so now they can sign into your account, right, to Luvian. It's a phishing email. So when you give that information, you're giving it to the scammer so they can sign into your account and wreck your stuff, pull your money, all that kind of stuff. Now you can get around this by getting on a computer. You can't really do it from your phone, or I'm not able to. But if you go online, you check that email with a computer, you can hover over their name and it'll show the real email. And a lot of times, instead of it being like customer service at paypal.com, which would be really official, it'll say like XYZ124 at hotmail.com wrote you this email. And that's how you know it's a scam email. Maybe there'll be typos, maybe the logos will be pixelated, but sometimes they're done really well. At first, I thought this was a scam email like that, but I signed into the account directly instead of going through the email. Sure enough, dispute, and it said my account was negative $20 and I had to pay it in order to unsuspend my account. I'm like, okay, well, let me just bust the wallet out here, wipe the crap out of my eyes, and pay you guys $20 because somebody disputed my account. These things happen. Well, I wish it was a little bit later in the day. We would do a beer review. I guess we could do an unboxing while we wait. A House committee hearing UFO investigation. Crack shop. What are you saying? Like they have another one coming up? Fox covered it 3 hours ago or something like that. IB4. They'll blame it on the great Ultra MAGA King. I'm thinking so. I don't know what happened with the last Trump rally. I've seen some footage suggesting that it happened on Saturday. Right Side Broadcasting didn't cover it, and I didn't know about it. I was told that there was going to be one Sunday, but the information was incorrect. It did not happen Sunday. There is one supposed to be happening the 28th, and we will be covering that. I can't remember where it's going to be. Wyoming or something like that. Ohio Kyle RSBN covered it. Let me see if I can figure out what it is that you're referencing. No, I can't dig through all the comments. Not seeing it. Not sure what you're referencing, Ohio Kyle. Brianna CC, Trump still running for 2024. So as far as I know, Trump has not disclosed that he's running because of campaign funding laws. I think it is. If he was to say he's running this early on, it could make it, well, one, I think he could be fined, or, I don't think he could be criminally charged, but I think he could be fined, and I think it'll also prevent him from being able to run. But there's been tons of hinting that he is planning on running and stuff, and I think that this whole Ultra MAGA King thing is going to give him some more momentum. I know a lot of people turn their back on Trump because of the January 6th stuff. We've talked about it so much. He is actually starting to bring up January 6th more now than he has been. But the whole associating or even freeing the inmates from J6 really associates him with the acceptance that it was an insurrection. The Democrats will absolutely say, oh, he's proud of his insurrectionists and blah, blah, blah. And that'll be worse for them and it'll be bad for him. That's why I think he hasn't been talking about it until now. Same thing with the convoy. People were saying the same thing about the convoy. They're like, why doesn't Trump endorse the convoy? It's because the convoy is trying to be we the people, not red team, blue team. And so a lot of people turn their back on Trump. But I think the whole MAGA King, Ultra MAGA movement, blah, 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 that the Democrats came up with, that's some great branding. I don't know what they were thinking by saying that. They're doing all the heavy lifting over there. I think that that's going to gain some momentum for the Trump supporters and stuff. And I think it's going to bring some people back. So we'll see when it's time to cast our vote. Well, as long as everything is transparent. Not what it seems, yeah. I don't know if they're going to go back and fix anything like that. I don't know. That's kind of the thing with Mike Lindell. Every time you see Mike Lindell, he's saying, oh, we got all the evidence, we got all the proof, and blah, 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 blah. Big things are coming out, and this, that, and the other. And that's great, but will there be results? Will people be held accountable? The biggest problem that we live with today here in America is accountability. People are not being held accountable. Whether it's a politician that is wrecking our country or it's a protester that is like shooting somebody down in the streets, nobody is being held accountable. People with integrity still walk that walk. They hold the line, they hold the standard. I know because I'm one of those people. I see people break the law every single day, and I refuse to do it because I just don't have luck like that. I step outside that line, I'm going down. I know it. I break the speed limit. I don't use my turn signal. Those police will not hesitate to take me in. They love to come and get me, and it's not because of my skin color. But that's just the way, the world works for me. And so I don't cross that line. I do what I'm supposed to do even when no one's looking. And I wish more people did it. But nobody is being held accountable. Like these, like the images I was just showing with the protesters tagging the streets and, throwing bricks and stuff like that. They're not going to find those people. There was like 3 people shot last night in Muskegon. They're not going to find those people. Crack shot. I don't know if it's about privilege. I think it's just we're living in a mad world where people need to be held accountable, consequences for actions.
I want to thank Candace Moppins, the executive director, and the members of the board of directors for hosting us today. Beloved community, as mayor of the city of Buffalo, on behalf of the more than 278,000 residents of our city, I want to just extend our deepest and most heartfelt condolences to the family members of the victims of the vicious attack on our community. I want the family members to know that we love you, that we care about you, and collectively we are here to wrap our arms around you and to help lift you up during this very difficult time. This is a time of great pain and sorrow for all of us in the city of Buffalo. But we are trusting and leaning on God to get us through this dark and difficult time. We are very thankful that in the midst of this darkness, we have a president and first lady who care deeply about our community and communities all across the country. President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden are people with extraordinary compassion and empathy. They wanted to be here for this community. They wanted to help us with our process of healing. And we are so thankful that they are here with us during this challenging time. As mayor, it is my great honor and high privilege to introduce our President, Joe Biden, and First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden.
Right in the chat real quick, where do you think they found old man Walter?
Before I begin, Jill would like to say a few words.
I just wanted to say thank you to the families for opening up your hearts to us and for letting us be with you today. So
To talk about gun control.
thank you for allowing us to be with you. Yeah.
Majority Leader Schumer and Senator Gillibrand and Congressman Higgins,
Speak up, you old bag of shit.
thank you for taking my call when I called. And I'll never forget what she said. I said, I'd like to maybe come up if it's okay. She said, this is a big Scranton. Come. And I think you're doing a heck of a job. Thank you. Thank you for your heart as well as your head. And Mayor Brown, you've been wonderful. Thank you. And I know this is a lot of, when a vice presidential or a presidential chip shows up, there's all kinds of paraphernalia and people, and I know it's not easy. I want to thank your law enforcement officers for not just what they did in this crisis, but for accommodating us, and all the elected officials and law enforcement officers, first responders, and faith leaders that are here today. Jill and I have come to stand with you, and to the families, we've come to grieve with you. It's not the same, but we know a little bit what it's like to lose a piece of your soul. When you lose a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a mother, a father. The feeling of having that, as I said to some of you when we talked privately, you feel like there's a black hole in your chest you're being sucked into, and you're suffocating, unable to breathe. That's what it felt like, at least to us, and I'm sure some version of that feels that way to you. The anger, the pain, the depth of a loss that's so profound. You know, we know it's hard to believe, and you're probably not going to believe it, but I can tell you now, from our personal experience and many others who we've met, the day's going to come, it will come, when your loved one brings a smile as you remember him or her. As you remember her, it's going to bring a smile to your lip before it brings a tear to your eye. It takes a while for that to happen. It takes a while. Come on, man. Might take more than a season. But our prayer for you is that that time comes sooner or later, but I promise you it will come. As a nation, I say to the families, we remember them. We've been reading about them. We visited the memorial where they show the love for them, and you've all shown by the supermarket. And Celestine Cheney, 65 years old, brain cancer survivor, churchgoer, bingo player, went to buy strawberries to make her favorite shortcake. A loving mother and a grandmother. Roberta Drury, 32, beloved daughter and sister, moved back home to help take care of her brother after his bone marrow transplant. She went to buy groceries for dinner. The center of attention, who made everyone in the room laugh and smile when she walked in. Andre McNeil, 53, worked at a restaurant, went to buy his 3-year-old son a birthday cake. His son's selling a birthday, asking where's daddy. Catherine Massey, 72, a writer and an advocate, who dressed up in costumes at schools and cut the grass in the park and helped in local elections, the glue of the family and the community. Marcus Morrison, 52, school bus aide, went to buy snacks for a weekly movie night with the family, survived by his wife and 3 children and a stepdaughter, the center of their world. Hayward Patterson, 67, father, church deacon, fed the homeless at the soup kitchen, gave rides at the grocery store to neighbors who needed help, putting food in the trunk of others when he took his final breath. Aaron Salter, 55, retired Buffalo police officer for 3 decades. 3 decades. Loved electric cars, hero who gave his life to save others on a Saturday afternoon. And had that man not been wearing that vest that he purchased, bulletproof vest, a lot of lives would have been saved. A beloved father and husband. Geraldine Talley, 62, expert banker and known for her warm, gentle personality, a friend to everybody, devoted mother and grandmother. Ruth Whitfield, 88, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sang in the church choir, a caretaker of her husband, bringing him clean clothes, cutting his hair, holding his hand every day she visited him in the nursing home. Heart as big as her head. Pearl Young, 77, a mother, grandmother, missionary of God, public school teacher, who also ran the local food pantry. Loved singing, dancing, and her family. And all three are injured. Zaire Goodman, 20, shot in the neck, but fighting through it. Jennifer Warrington, 50, Christopher Braden, 55, both treated with injuries on a long road to recovery. Individual lives of love, service, and community that speaks to the bigger story of who we are as Americans. A great nation because we're good people. Jill and I bring you this message from deep in our nation's soul. In America, evil will not win, I promise you. Hate will not prevail, and white supremacy will not have the last word. For the evil did come to Buffalo. It's come to all too many places. Manifesting gunmen who massacred innocent people in the name of hateful and perverse ideology, rooted in fear and racism. It's taken so much. 10 lives cut short in a grocery store. Three other wounded by a hate-filled individual who had driven 200 miles from Binghamton in that range to carry out a murderous, racist rampage that he would live stream to the world. What happened here is simple and straightforward. Terrorism. Terrorism. Domestic terrorism. Violence inflicted in the service of hate and the vicious thirst for power that defines one group of people being inherently inferior to any other group. A hate that through the media and politics, the internet, has radicalized, angry, alienated, lost, and isolated individuals into falsely believing that they will be replaced, that's the word, replaced, by the other, by people who don't look like them, and who are therefore in a perverse ideology that they possess and being fed lesser beings. I and all of you reject the lie.
Yeah, scream at the people who are in mourning.
I condemn those who spread the lie for power, political gain, and for profit. That's what it is.
Jill always looks like she's cringing, about to pull him off stage.
The destructive violence this ideology unleashes. We heard the chants, "You will not replace us," in Charlottesville, Virginia. I wasn't going to run, as the senator knows, again for president. But when I saw those people coming out of the woods of the fields in Virginia, in Charlottesville, carrying torches, shouting, "You will not replace us," accompanied by white supremacists and carrying Nazi banners, that's when I said, no. And I, honest to God, those who know me, Chuck, you know I wasn't going to run for certain. But I was going to be darned if I was going to let anyway. I'm going to get going.
I'll go ahead, get it off your chest.
The mass shootings in Charleston, South Carolina, El Paso, Texas, and Pittsburgh, last year in Atlanta, this week in Dallas, Texas, and now in Buffalo, New York. White supremacy is a poison. It's a poison running through it. It really is.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for the $15 donation. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, and happy freedom.
No more. I mean, no more. We need to say as clearly and forcefully as we can that the ideology of white supremacy has no place in America. None. And look, failure for us to not say that, failure in saying that is going to be complicity. Silence is complicity. It's complicity. We cannot remain silent. Our nation's strength has always come from the idea. It's going to sound corny, but think about it. What's the idea of our nation? That we're all children of God. All life, liberty.
How about condemning terrorism or supremacy of any sort?
Gifts of God. We didn't get it from a government. We got it from because we exist. We're called upon to defend them. The venom of the haters and their weapons of war, the violence and the words and deeds that stalk our streets, our stores, our schools. This venom, this violence cannot be the story of our time. We cannot allow that to happen. Look, I'm not naive. I know tragedy will come again. It cannot be forever overcome. It cannot be fully understood either. But there are certain things we can do. We can keep assault weapons off our streets. We've done it before. I did it when we passed the crime bill last time, and violence went down, shootings went down. You can't prevent people from being radicalized to violence, but we can address the relentless exploitation of the internet to recruit and mobilize terrorism. We just need to have the courage to do that, to stand up. Look, the American experiment in democracy is in a danger like it hasn't been in my lifetime. It's in danger this hour. Hate and fear are being given too much oxygen by those who pretend to love America, but who don't understand America. To confront the ideology of hate requires caring about all people, not making distinctions. Reverend, the scripture is seeing that we're all part of the divine. Love thy neighbor as thyself. That's the America I know, that Jill knows. And most deserve the most, look, we're the most multiracial, most dynamic nation in the history of the world. Now's the time for the people of all races, from every background, to speak up as a majority in America and reject white supremacy. These actions we've seen in these hate-filled attacks represent the views of a hate-filled minority. We can't allow them to distort America, the real America. We can't allow them to destroy the soul of the nation. As President of the United States, I travel the world all the time. And other nations ask me, heads of state in other countries, ask me, what's going on? What in God's name happened on January 6th? What happened in Buffalo? What happened? They'll ask. We have to refuse to live in a country where black people going about a weekly grocery shopping can be gunned down by weapons of war deployed in a racist cause. We have to refuse to live in a country where fear and lies are packaged for power and for profit. We must all enlist in this great cause of America. This is work that requires all of us, presidents, politicians, commentators, citizens. None of us can stay in the sidelines. We have to resolve that here in Buffalo, that from the tragedy, this tragedy will come hope and light and life. It has to. And that on our watch, the sacred cause of America will never bow, never break, never bend. And the American we love, the one we love, will endure. So to the families, from your pain, may we find purpose to live life worthy of the loved ones you lost. From a hymn based on the 91st Psalm that's sung in my church, may he raise you up on eagle's wings and bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. That's my wish for us. We can do this if we resolve to do it.
I don't even know what he's saying.
And those
Get out of here.
it's just about profit and politics. May the soul of the fallen rest in peace and rise in glory. And may God guide the United States of America, now and always. To the families, as my grandpop used to say when I walked out of his home in Scranton, he'd say, "Joey, spread the faith." And my grandma would yell, "No, Joey." He'd say, "Keep the faith." And my grandma would say, "No, Joey, spread the faith." We're thinking of you. Hold on to each other tightly. Stick together. You'll get through this. And we'll make Buffalo and the United States a better place to live than it is today.
I tell you what, if more people were walking around armed, I bet there'd be less shootings. Well, that was nice. All right, hooligans. Well, we will wrap this live up. But first, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. While I'm getting everything set up, please find the Linktree link in the description and follow me on everything. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Gab, Telegram, Getter, Instagram, everything. Follow me on everything. And then join Gilded. Gilded is where all the hooligans hang out when we are not live. Gilded is a chat like you're in right now. That's where all the hooligans hang out. We have a news board that is full of news articles that are constantly up to date with news going on around the world for you to stay up to date with what is happening. Let's get ready for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, hooligans, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, everyone. Thank you guys for being here. Big shout out to everyone that made donations, joined the membership program, or purchased any merch. I appreciate all of you, and I would not be able to do this without you. So thank you so much for all the support. I will see you guys on the next live. I don't have anything scheduled at this time. I will be keeping my eyes open. The weather's kind of cooled off, so I don't know if we'll see any action in the streets, but if so, we will cover it. I appreciate all of you more than I can put into words. Also, I got some exciting stuff happening in the background we're trying to put together. Edward is constantly helping me improve the live. Like I had mentioned before, we're trying to come up with some games and stuff for us to play while there's downtime, fun stuff for us to do instead of just taking on this hate every day like we have been doing. I will keep you guys informed, but it's another reason to join Gilded because everyone on Gilded will be the first to know. Thank you guys so much for being here. I will see you on the next live. Until then, stand tall, shine bright, and that's a wrap.